the recording. Welcome to the Google Analytics webinar. We are going to go through and give kind of a step one brief overview of Google Analytics. Actually, it won't be just an overview. We'll go into in a little more detail to Google Analytics today. Google Analytics is probably one of the most common analytic. I would think it is. I mean, it's just like Google with the being the biggest search engine out there. So they are going to be. They do good at what they do with most of what they do. Now, searching, they've got it in the bag. Nobody does search like Google does. Okay. Analytics, fairly well. They do a fairly good job with things. I find them wanting in a few areas, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that today. So when you come to google.com/analytics, that's the page we're on right now. You can see the URL up there at the top, google.com/analytics. You don't need that ending / necessarily. It'll put that in by default when you go to the page. You'll come up here to sign in, and you'll sign in just with your Gmail account, whatever Google account or Gmail account you have. And then we'll go to Google Analytics. Now, recently they've added these others, Adometry, Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics Premium. These are other things that you really don't need these tools unless you are a major pro user with Google. If you're a big player. I mean, these people who use these tools are those who are spending $10,000 to $50,000 or more each month in their advertising. Okay, big players. Otherwise, you're just not going to use most of that. So we're going to be talking about just the basics of analytics and getting started there today. And one of the things that I'd like to show as we start into the analytics is the difference between a site that has a lot of traffic and a site that has very little or no traffic. So I want to go into that comparison. So we'll start by going to this site here, where I really don't do a whole lot with that site, and it doesn't get very much traffic. So here we can see daily traffic. So let's just first talk about this dashboard. As you come into the dashboard, we've got the audience overview here that you're seeing, and you're generally going to have a graph right here that shows you your traffic. And most of the time it will default to daily. So these are days. So as I hover over each dot, it tells me the day. So this was Sunday, September 13th, 2015, session 1. Okay. Monday, September 14th, 2015, session 1, and so on. And then session, so I guess sessions, not session. So that tells me how many sessions or how many visitors. A session is a visitor. So on these days from Sunday to Thursday, September 13th through the 17th, I had only one visit per day. Okay. Before that, I had 3 visitors over here. Here we've got 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 0. Nothing for a few days, and then back up to a couple of visitors a day. So this kind of traffic is what you're going to see with a brand new site where you haven't done much with the site. You haven't put any work out there to really drive traffic to the site, or it might be something that you will see with a site where you have kind of let it go. So if we can show you a longer period of time here, look at a couple of years, you can see that back in 2014, I might have been doing a little bit with the site where we had a higher number of sessions, up to 10 a year. I'd probably have to go back even farther to really see decent traffic with this. So we'll go ahead and pull this back to the last 7 days. Actually, I'll do it 30 days and apply that. So you can change that with the drop down up here. If you want to change, you can do it a custom time. You can compare it to other previous periods. So I could say, okay, let's look at uh, September through October compared to August through September at the same time. Um, and that can help you see if there were any real differences, major things that are different. Now, again, 7 visitors as a high here as opposed to 0 on this one. That just isn't enough data to tell us anything. There isn't enough information here to really give us details about what we need to change or work on with the site. We don't have enough traffic. Okay, 7 visitors as a high is nothing. There's no details here. There's not enough information to really tell me what I need to do. I mean, we look at this and we can see, wow, bounce rate's only 11%. That's really low. Well, that's great, but we're still looking at less than 10 visitors a day, less than 5 per day most days actually. So that doesn't help us. That's not a good statistic necessarily because there's very few visitors overall. Okay, and so that's not going to be a helpful thing. We've got to have a lot of visitors before we go in and decide we're going to make changes to the site. So that's the first thing I want you to recognize and understand. If your site is new and this is all you're seeing in statistics, get out of here. Don't spend any time in the statistics. It's not going to do you any good. None of this information is helpful yet because you haven't worked on the optimizing and marketing and promoting enough yet to drive traffic. And that's what you've got to work on, is getting the traffic there. Okay, and of course, we're not here to talk about getting traffic. Today, we're talking about what we look at once we have traffic. And so that's what we're going to focus on. So I'm going to go back, see if I can, I guess I got to go back home, and we'll check one of these sites that has a little more traffic. So this one here seems to be the biggest one that I have in my Google Analytics counter. I use another stat counter that I told you guys about last week, and that we're going to go into detail on probably next week, more than I do Google Analytics, because it can give me everything that Google Analytics does, plus some, and I like to see that plus some. So here we see a little bit better traffic. Here we're averaging 25 visitors a day. So that's our line right there for 25. We've got plenty where we are over that, but we're averaging about 25 visitors a day. I see a pretty consistent comparison here. I don't see a lot of changes. In fact, right there, it looks very similar in there. This is still very similar. That right in there is practically right on, the same exact numbers almost. So I'm not really concerned about differences with the site. Here I'm not seeing something drastically different from one month to another. So it's not, there's no concerns there. Now, ultimately, we might want to see a little bit bigger range of details to be able to see what's valuable for us. So we might go back to, let's say, the whole year, perhaps. So we come here to January 1st to present and look at what's happening. And we see some spikes here for traffic every now and then. But nothing huge. We're still staying under 50 visitors a day. This, by the way, is a website that I don't promote. I haven't done anything new with this website for years. And still, I have orders coming from it every week, especially this time of year. It's a costume site. And so we've been getting orders coming, even without additional work to it. Were I to put some good effort and work into this, we'd see this go over the 50. I have seen in the past where this was much higher. If we look at 2011, for example, we might see, I think back then it might have been a little better. Yeah, so see there we're looking at an average closer to 30, where some were much higher. And if we were to go back even further, I can't recall how old this site is. I think it was probably 2008 that I really worked on this site. So see here we had some kind of advertising, probably pay-per-click advertising going on in February, where we had a huge spike testing something, 297 visitors on that day, came down to 125 after that, 94 up to the 120s again for a little bit. And so there was a time with this site where I was between 50 to over 100 visitors, and even sometimes 200 or close to it with my traffic. If we go back a little bit more, we can see that. And I could, if I kept a journal of some sort, we'll keep that to 2010. If I kept some kind of a marketing journal, then I'd have more details to look at and say, okay, this is what I was doing at that time. Okay, but I'm sure I was doing some blog. I think I had some guest blogging. I had some pay-per-click going on in this area. I had a lot more happening there. I was working on the site quite a bit more. Let's take it back a little bit further. Go back to 2008, January. There we go. So see, January 2008, the site hadn't happened yet. So it was. It came about in October 2008 was when we really launched the site. Okay. And then in November and December and into January, no, December. So mainly November, December, we really had quite a spike with this site. And then it came way down the end of December, which most sites do. It'll just die down right after Christmas. That's just most of retail. Everybody's just lethargic and laying around and not doing much, right? And there's not a lot of commerce happening. And then it picked up again, and we had a pretty decent year that first year with traffic starting to build through 2009 until the end of 2009, where we had some really, really amazing things happen for us in October for this site. And then it got to be so much happening, and I was busy on my other sites that I was working on. My wife was handling this and said, I can't handle it. And so I stopped marketing. And there you can see what then it came back down. And then now and then we would have a spike for different things, but for the most part, we stopped marketing the site at that time. All right, so what else do we look at? Well, normally you're going to be looking at a 30-day period. So we'll apply that again back to our 30-day period, and we're going to look at these specific numbers here. Now, one of the first things that you want to look at in our statistics is the bounce rate. Bounce rate is an indicator, and let's pull this little bubble up so you can see that. I don't know how well you can read that, but what it says is bounce rate is the percentage of single-page visits in which the person left your site from the entrance page without interacting with the page. So that means they did a search for our site, or they came to our site in some way, they landed on a page, they didn't go any deeper, they didn't move on that page, they hit the page and then they left. And they went right back out. So generally what that indicates is people came into our site either on accident or looking for something that they didn't find. Okay, and so they decided to leave. That's going to happen. We are going to have bounces, and generally a 40 to 50% bounce rate is really good if you're dealing with an e-commerce site. Okay, e-commerce meaning that we have a website that sells products. If we have a site that sells products, then generally what we want is for people to come in to the home page or to a category page. They find us on one of our pages, and we want them to continue on into the site to look at our products and hopefully put some products in the cart and buy the products, right? Now, we know the majority aren't going to do that. I mean, statistically speaking, if we get a 1% conversion rate, 1% of the visitors that come to our site convert and buy something, that's good. Okay, that's really good. So if we have a 2%, That's phenomenal. Sites like Amazon and eBay, big sites that have $1 million budgets and do well with their marketing, they're happy if they get a 2% conversion rate. Sometimes they might see a little bit better. Okay, so keep that in mind that we need a lot of traffic to make a business work. Everybody who comes in isn't necessarily looking to buy right then, or they're not finding what they want to buy. Many of them are window shoppers, and so we're going to have a bounce rate there, and we're going to have we're not going to have perfect numbers necessarily. Okay, everybody who comes in isn't ready to buy. So just keep that in mind. Let's look at some of these other stats. So bounce rate, 53.63% actually is not bad. That's pretty good. If you've got a bounce rate of 70, 80% on an e-commerce site, then if you've got traffic enough, then that's an indicator that we need to make some improvements. We need to change some things. Okay. How much traffic do we want before we decide that we need to make changes or adjustments to the site? I would say you really should be looking at near 50 visitors per day before you're going to go and say, we better change something on the site. If you don't have 50 visitors a day or close to that, you just don't have enough data to tell you what needs to happen. And so at this point, if I wanted to worry about the stats on this site, I really need to focus on optimizing. I could do on-page optimization. I could change things, but I'm not going to worry about the colors or the graphics or the design of the site. The only work I would do within the site is making sure all of my optimization is where it should be. And if everything in the site I feel is optimized where it ought to be, then I'm going to look outside of the site. Do I have junk links pointing to the site that need to be cleaned up? Do I have good links pointing to the site that are valuable? Do I need more of those? Can I do more mentions on Facebook, Twitter, or Pinterest, or other social sites? What can we do outside of the site to let people know that our site exists and to get the traffic in? Okay, those are things that I would want to look at and work with if I had lower traffic. I want to build up that traffic. Then once we get over that 50 mark, where we have 50 visitors a day, then we can start looking at it and say, okay, now I've still got a 60% bounce rate. It's much better than the 80% that I had 2 months ago, but I'd still like that to come down a little bit. Well, now we can start looking at the other data. So what else do we look at? Well, these numbers right here give us quite a bit. This chart over here, we've got new visitors. Usually that's going to be bigger. Okay, and then we have our returning visitors. Returning customers, that's fantastic. That's something we like to see. It's usually going to be a smaller percentage with most of our sites. Well, and then we have this over here. We have our total sessions, 744, total users, 658. We've got our page views, which 2,500 to 744, that's pretty good. We want to see generally about 3 to 4 page views per visitor on average. Remember, this is averaged out with half of our traffic leaving right after the first page. So that's kind of skewed a little bit. So the remaining traffic is actually going through more pages than just 3 or 3.3. Okay. Average session duration. How long are they staying on the site? Well, how long do we want them on the site? Do we want them to come through quickly, find what they want, check out, and be gone? How long will that take? Usually that's going to take a few minutes. And so we probably want this average session duration to be a little higher than 1 minute. Okay, that 1 minute means we've got a lot of these that are bouncing. They're leaving within just a few seconds, and so it really pulls that down. So we want to see a little bit higher session duration, perhaps. And then percentage of new sessions is there. Now down below here we have some demographic details. Most of our traffic is, if we're in the US and we're targeting the US market, then that's where our traffic is going to come from. Okay, most of it is going to be US traffic. We're getting picked up here in Great Britain, it looks like, and then this one is probably in Europe. So it's not going to do too much for us to look at any further breakdowns of that. We can see that the majority of our traffic is coming from the U.S., so that's our market. That's who we're targeting. Okay. We could look at browsers and operating systems, service providers. All of that isn't going to make much sense until we're huge. When we're getting orders every day and we're big enough that we need to hire somebody to research some of this, then we'll look into those things in more detail. But right now, we're just looking at some of the basics. So we come over here to the audience section, and we can look at the demographics, which is going to give us this basic information. We can click on overview there. So here we've got it in charts. So here are our ages. I've got a little over 10%, 12.62% of my visitors are between the age of 18 to 24. 33% of my visitors are ages 25 to 34. And 38%, my highest number, are 35 to 44 age group. Okay. And then over here we've got our older portion, and they're still higher than the younger crowd. So this is my audience. I want to appeal to parents and grandparents, essentially, is what I want to appeal to here. And that shows me that that's who is coming into the site. Now, if we look at this over here, this pie chart, we can see the gender. Most of the people who come to my site are female. That's why it's so hard for me to market this site. Okay, and a very small number are going to be male. So again, that gives us some insight on how we need to market, who we're marketing to. My target audience is mostly mothers in the age of 25 to 45. That's probably the primary target audience. Okay, next to that is grandmothers. Okay, because we've got that higher age group there. So I'm not going to worry too much about targeting my marketing toward men, because women are by far the greatest demographic for me. So again, this is valuable information that I can have if I have enough traffic to show it. If I'm not getting the traffic on a daily basis, then looking at this information just is not going to be very useful. But this site gives me some pretty good ideas of who I need to target. So now I can take this information and say, okay, most of the people I am targeting are mothers, probably mothers of multiple children. Some of them will have maybe just one daughter, perhaps, and we are looking at daughters here because the site that I'm looking at is littlefairywings.com. So it's going to be primarily for little girls. Okay. And so that gives us some pretty good information there with the basic demographics. Well, next one that we have here is interests. So we can look at the overview of interests, and we have people who are movie lovers. Now this is all based on their search history in Google. Google's spying on us all the time. They know more about us than we know about ourselves. Okay, so they know that 6.05% of the people that come to my site are movie lovers. Well, aren't we all? That doesn't really help me much, right? It doesn't say much. Shoppers, 5.6% are shoppers and shopaholics. Well, that's good. I want them to shop. I want them to come and spend money. I want them to be addicted to shopping, right? So that's a good thing to see there. We've got home decor enthusiasts. We've got family-focused people. We've got TV lovers. We've got cooking enthusiasts, aspiring chefs, news junkies, and avid readers and entertainment. Technophiles, people who really like technology, music lovers, and travel buffs. Okay. In-market segment. This one, and we can click on these different links here to get more complete reports of them. So this is 17% of the total. Here's 16% of my total. Down here, other categories, we got 17%. So in-market segments, apparel and accessories, home and garden, home furnishings, real estate, residential, real estate. That's interesting that we would see that there. Travel, hotels, gifts and occasions, appointments. So again, this is just talking about the interests of my target audience, What are their interests? What do they spend time researching otherwise? So how can this be beneficial to me? That's what we've got to look at is, okay, now I know this, how does that help me? Well, movie lovers, shoppers, home decor, I mean, this is women, right? That's really it's just reaffirming that, and I'm not saying that all of you that are women are necessarily shopaholics, but let's face it, this is stuff that women like to do, right? Family focused, TV, cooking, and so forth. And then over here we've got the apparel, we've got the home and garden, home furnishings, the real estate. Now, see, that starts to make sense for me because my wife, I know, loves to look at home decorating stuff and house plans and other properties and stuff. So Google takes that as seeing an interest in real estate, travel and hotels, gifts and occasions, and so on. So it gives me an understanding of my demographic now. If I have an opportunity to do a little marketing, do a little networking, I know the types of people I want to network with. I can find mommy bloggers, right? And they'll be blogging about all these kinds of things, and I might be able to get in with them and have them communicate about my product a little bit. Cross promote. I can promote theirs maybe on my blog or something. They can promote me on theirs, and that can help drive traffic and get interested audiences to my sites. If people are interested in family type websites, well, then if I decided I wanted to do a banner advertisement and put up a banner for my site to drive traffic, then I would be better served putting that on a family-focused site and maybe a family-focused apparel site than on a site that focuses on hunting for men, right? And so that tells me a little bit of where I can market, who I can target. And then we've got the other categories down here, just more of the same kind of information. Okay. What about geo-targeting? Geo-targeting, basically, we're looking at location and language. So the language is primarily going to be English, of course. That's my audience. So, and that's again where I'm seeing most of my traffic. Location, same kind of thing. What part of the world? And this is going to show us an actual map. So there I can see that the majority of my traffic is coming from the U.S., and so that is where I want to focus my efforts and working on targeting outside of the U.S. isn't so big. Okay. Behavior, new versus returning visitors. So I have 641 new visitors out of 744 with 103 returning visitors. Well, that's interesting. That tells me that I have people coming back. They come to the site, they leave, and then they come back later. Maybe they're looking again. Maybe they're coming back to purchase. Maybe they are a return order, right? So I have some pretty good potential for return customers. Well, what can I do with that? Well, maybe I could create a mailing list. I could create a list with topics about interesting family-related ideas and things that you can do with your kids to encourage play time and something like that maybe. Okay, so I can have some. I've got some things there that I can do with marketing because I know I've got a bit of returning. Now, if I have 103 returning visitors out of 744 over the last 30 days from doing nothing with the site, what would happen if I started marketing the site? What would happen if I started promoting? What would happen if I wanted to do a little Facebook or blogging or Pinterest? What if I did something to increase my traffic? Would I have more returning visitors? I think I could definitely have more returning visitors. If I've got that many with doing nothing, then putting some effort into it, I'd have a lot more. Now, I've got other sites, of course, that I work on, so I can afford to kind of ignore this one a little bit as I have, and it's done really well, even with being neglected. You guys generally don't want to be neglecting your site at all. You want to be pushing things really good, and especially if you have just the one site. Technology can tell me a little bit about what's going on. Browser and OS, operating system. That tells me a large percentage of the people that come to my site are Mac users because they're using Safari. That's an Apple branded browser, right? Next biggest is Chrome, not surprisingly. Internet Explorer, then Firefox, then our Android users. So here's my number of visitors that use their phone. So only 18 people using their phone to find me as compared to traditional browsers in the last 30 days. Is there something I can do to increase that? Can I maybe create some kind of advertisements out there on phone apps or something like that might increase my traffic from phone users? Or is my target audience just not shopping on their phone for this type of product? So that's something that, again, I can put some thought into. Now, once again, if I only have 18 visits from this for the whole month, and if I only had a similar number up here, or maybe only 100 for the whole month with all of these other browsers, I'm not going to read anything into this. It doesn't mean anything. I don't have enough traffic. You've got to have the numbers there before you can really make any sense out of this, the statistics, okay, and the analytics. Here I have a tab specifically for mobile users, and I can look at that to see what we have. And that includes, mobile generally, they're looking at mobile devices. That could be a laptop for all I know. It could be, tablets, iPads, and other tablet devices. They do state-specific tablets here. Maybe this is phones. Maybe that's what we've got. Maybe this technology over here, where it's showing. Well, actually, that's really good for me to notice. I should have realized that on my phone. I do have Chrome. On a iPhone, you will have Safari. There might be Internet Explorer on some phones and devices, right? Firefox could be on a phone, and then of course the Android browser. So that's just one browser. So my mobile traffic is actually bigger than that, as we can see here. With mobile traffic, we've got desktop traffic 373, mobile traffic. Okay, so I actually do have on phones 298 visitors, almost half of what I get is on mobile devices. So that's actually pretty consistent with general stats and what trends and what's happening nowadays. People use their phones a lot for shopping. So one of the things that tells me too is I need to make sure that my site is mobile friendly, that it looks good on mobile devices and tablets, not just on computers. Most of the time these days, that isn't a problem with the sites that we build through Volusion, which is where the majority of the sites will be for you guys. That's going to be a given. Okay. So those are some of the main things we look at, and again, the statistics is really there to help guide what we do with our work on the site. That's really what we're looking at this for, is what do I need to improve on the website. Okay. There was one other one that I wanted to look at here. See if I can find where they put that in Google. Engagement tells us the number of sessions compared to the page views and how long they're on the site. So I can see that it's actually a smaller number of my overall visitors that are moving through the site. So there's a fairly long or large number that, well, as we saw, is 53% bounce. So that's our bouncers right there. Let's see what I wanted to. No, active users isn't going to do it. Where did I want to see? Maybe it's under behavior. Yes, the behavior flow. So if we go under behavior to the behavior flow, that's going to tell me they came in on, well, this page right here is our home page, okay? And then from there, we have 206 that go on through and 267 that drop off. 56% right there from that hit the home page are bouncing. They're leaving. Okay, that's what this red is, showing a drop off. Then we have this page over here, a different page where people are coming into, and we could view these different things. Highlight traffic through here, and we can look just at that flow. Okay, what are they doing when they come to this page? Well, we've got 50% of them going on through and 50% of them dropping off. Okay, so half of my traffic is going on through, looking at other pages, and continuing on, and we can move this, click and drag to move that, so that we can see how deep they're going into the site. So it gives us a pretty good overview of our site traffic and what's happening. It doesn't tell us anything about individual viewers, but it does give us an overall view of what is occurring. Okay, so these are our primary entry pages. We've got this page here. We've got this page right here, and we've got these other pages down here, and then the home page. So those are pages that are popular pages for entry. Okay, and then many of these pages, as they come through here, they are going to many different pages. Right, they're coming in and going through many pages. If we highlight this one, traffic's going to look a little different. But they're going through all of these pages. The majority of them are coming through these 41 pages. If we look at the group details, we can actually see the individual pages that are getting their traffic and how many sessions they're getting, the percentage of the traffic, and so forth. Okay, so this is all of the pages that they're going through. And then they continue on into other pages. Now let's look at that again. One thing you might notice here is look at the names of these pages. They're not numbers. They're keywords, right? That's really important that you use keywords like that with your pages. You don't want a lot of numbers in those URLs. We want to use specific keywords related to our products and content on the site. Okay. We can view only this segment. If we wanted to blow it up, we could see that with more details there. So we see our landing page. We see we had 65% that came into that page that are going on through. So that's an interesting statistic for me. That says that whoever finds that page, they're probably more likely to find what they were looking for than what we had on our initial, what we have on our homepage. A lot of people come to the homepage aren't finding what they want. Okay. Now, something that Google does not do that is a little annoying is they don't talk much about keywords. They don't give us an understanding of what keywords people are using. There are some statistics on that, but not a huge amount of data on the keywords that people are using to come into our site. Google has started to encrypt that data and give it only to those who pay. So we have to pay for that kind of stuff now. So that's something that has been a little irritating that they've done recently, but there's not much we can do about it. But what we can see is the pages that they are coming in on. So if these are my landing pages, well, there's my keyword right there. infant and toddler fairy wings. So infant fairy wings, toddler fairy wings, those are probably the keywords that are being used, right? If we look that up on Google and do a search, we can see where I come in to the search results, so we can find out if I am even on the first page, which I'm not on this one, or if there I am on the top of the second page. Okay, so and here I am again for that keyword. So if I worked on that keyword, I could get myself to the first page of Google and probably double my traffic. So just looking at the popular pages, we can see the keywords where we are picking up our traffic and actually getting visitors. Okay, and of course, since my domain name is Little Fairy Wings, if we were to type in Little Fairy Wings, I'm going to come up right at the top because it is my domain name. It's matched. Plus, I've done a lot of other good optimizing throughout the site, so that's going to help me come up. Okay. So there are a lot of things, a lot of beneficial things we can look at there. We can see what keywords are working for us. There's a lot that we can gather from the details in Google Analytics. Today has been kind of an overview of just using Google Analytics. Next week, I'm going to give some details on doing Stat Counter as a different analyzer, and some of the different things you'll see there, and how to use that tool. And then we'll continue from there to other deeper insights, and we'll talk more about looking at the specific parts of the analytics to help improve our website. Most likely, those of you who are watching this are just getting started with your site or don't have the traffic where it needs to be, so you really need to focus on the optimizing and marketing of the site and get the traffic to the point where we have over 50 visitors a day, preferably, so that we can really start analyzing things, looking at these stats and seeing what we need to improve. Okay. So I thank you all for joining today. I'm going to leave you with that and let you go. If you have any questions on stats or anything, please take those to our team or to your coach so that we can get any of those questions answered.